Though this is a small group, you guys can yell and shout out and everything. So let's go to the stuff that the people who are late don't really care about anyway. Who am I? I work for a small SharePoint consulting firm in Washington, D.C. SharePoint, nothing but SharePoint. Okay, a little .NET there too. I'm a project manager, evangelist, one of those guys who knows a little bit about a lot, knows the pain points, and can work as a translator between business and the IT folks. What's my experience? What have I done? I did the disastrous 2003 to 2007 migration. My favorite part of that was I had a system of folders and sites called network applications. There was a folder called network applications. Well, no, it was a site called network applications, and then a subsite called network applications, and then a subsite called network applications. Oops, too close. And then a folder called network applications. Now, the really great part about this was there were no documents at any level in any of the structure, but I was asked to move it anyway. So 2003, yay, MOS. Then from MOS to 2010, that was really good. Lots of differences, great, huge benefits. And now we have 22 to either Office 365 or 2013, and they're more like cousins. This is not a huge migration. As you guys have all heard, it's really cool. Everyone's really excited. But it's not that big of a jump from 2010 to 2013. So I've done some of those, yes, even already. And then also, I introduced myself. I'm not a developer. I'm maybe an IT pro. That's so flexible. I will always defer to clicking first before coding. And I think that's one of the values of SharePoint here. So that's me. So it's after lunch. I'm not going to make you do calisthenics, although that would really be entertaining for me. We might not have enough room. But we're going to start with some questions, and you are going to answer. Why are you here? No, this is not a philosophical question. One of my friend's answering machines is, you have the opportunity to answer two of the biggest questions. Who are you, and why are you calling me? That's not this big. Why are you here? Why are you here in this room? I'm going to pick on you because you're right front.
Just installed SharePoint recently, and starting to see all the great benefits our company can get out of it, but I'm having difficulty getting the executives to buy into this.
Great. So brand new install, starting from the ground up. Are you in IT or what? IT ground up installation. Get the execs to buy in. That sound familiar to anybody else? Yeah, I see some heads nodding here. Back next to the projector. Oh, just the same thing, or? Yep. I think we have a lot of IT people in here, and I'll actually show the slide. Anything slightly different? Okay, so you've had a pilot, you've had it successfully running. Do you have a stakeholder, like an executive stakeholder in it too, but just it didn't spread out? Okay. Ooh, culture. We might talk about that. So they said that the nice lady back there said she's in a conservative organization, so not easy to push down the hill, right? Okay. And in this session, are you hoping to learn about features? No. Okay. We'll talk a few. Uh-huh. Right. Oh, you're my ideal here. So, okay, so we have it. Everybody looks at it differently. And I want to know what features to use first. Yes! That's the intention here. Great. Okay. So that was sort of going into the next one. What will you get out of this session? So I'll paraphrase. We're going to get a list of features that I can bring back. Maybe not features per se. I'm not going to hand you stuff, but I'm going to guide you on how to get those stuff. So what else are you going to get out of this? Going to get ideas, maybe? Anyone else? What are you going to get out of this session? Shortcuts? Okay, shortcuts. The gentleman over there is going to get power from the side of the room. Strategies to be able to implement it. Anyone going to get a raise, maybe? You know, they're going to implement SharePoint. They're going to, yeah, I did it. I got to get a raise. Okay, it's a fantasy, but it could happen. Anyone going to get a new job, maybe? I can move into this project manager role, and I can get, you know, a new job because we have all these great ideas, and the SharePoint team grows. Maybe. It's happened before. Okay, so if we get those strategies, if we get those features, are you guys interested in getting that out of this session today? Yeah? All right, woo! Great, fantastic. Oh, my transition, wait, I'll go back to this in a second. Guess what I just did? I just did the agenda for this session. This session's going to be about 3 things. It's going to be about building context between the different departments, right? They see things differently. We're going to talk about that. It's going to be about identifying the value that generally those departments have. And I have examples. They're real examples, but I've sort of boiled them down so we don't get obstructed by the details. I talk about human resources sometimes, and they're like, oh, no, that's in the PeopleSoft. Oh, no, that's in this system. That's not the point. We're talking in general. They look at things differently. And then at the end, right, you had buy-in. You're here. It's your time. The company's paying you. You need to pull value out of this. So we pull those 2 things together, context and value, and we get buy-in. So let me just go back for a second. I just thought this was really cool, so I grabbed it. I don't know if Microsoft's going to yell at me or not, but 500 of your closest friends signed up. Vast majority are IT, so is that correct? I think I asked that question before. Vast majority IT, yeah. Business decision stakeholders, I think the fine participant back there, great. So again, that translation of back to forth and trying to get us all on our own pages. I also have colleagues here who I forced to come. And then you have all this other information. This is all available if you can log on to my SPC, or you can do it later. You can see all these statistics. I thought they were really cool. Guidelines. This is a 2-way conversation. You guys already figured that out. I want to make it valuable for you. So we're going to do 2 things. Raise your hand, stand up, yell, shout, scream. Or at certain times, I'm going to go behind. And again, I apologize if my behind gets in the way. And I'm going to look at this hashtag on Twitter. So feel free, if you have a thought, to put on there. I might not necessarily be able to get it immediately, but it means I know who you are and I can respond to it later. So let's try that. Sound like fun to try Twitter? For us IT people who are shy, right? It's a safe place. Jump up, yell, scream. We'll see each other at a bar later. It's fine. We did it before. Applaud, hoot, holler, whenever you think it's appropriate. I don't mind. And then please remember to fill out the evaluation at the end. There is a speaker pool. As a new person to the SharePoint conference, I've spoken at lots of SharePoint Saturdays. I'd love to beat the pants off of everybody. I'm not trying to rig it. This is not, the telephone Verizon calling and saying, please give us 5. But hey, help me give you guys a 5. All right, can we do that? Woo! Okay, I shouldn't have done that. All right, so we went through the agenda. Is this about what you're expecting for this session? Putting those pieces together. Okay, great. So let's talk about context. So context is about where you are in your culture, where you are in the life cycle of SharePoint. All of this information can obviously be generalized, but really it's about SharePoint because SharePoint's a little different because it can expand so far and do so much. So we need to bring it together and focus things. What's involved? How many pieces are you new? Do you have existing? All this great information. Are you looking to expand? And then really important here for context is, a gentleman over there said, all of our departments think about this differently. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. Okay, quick quiz. Oh, next one. How much is this worth? Oh, man. She's right. How much is this worth? Come on, did you hear her? What did she say? Priceless. Why are these two things priceless? Because they're my kids, right? My 13-year-old's going to either love me or hate me for that. And this one, I think it's priceless. I didn't Bing it to find out, but close to priceless, right? Pretty close. So you stole my thunder. Priceless, right? Context. It's priceless to me because it is what is important to me. The other painting I actually happen to like, but maybe it's something that I don't like. It's still priceless because other people like it. Okay? Makes sense? Let's try that in a SharePoint domain. Who's ever trained anybody on this wonderful SharePoint 2010 site? Who gets this? Yeah, I mean, so much better than 2007, don't get me wrong. Also really horrible on screens like this because it's already whitewashed and then just everything goes away. So you don't really understand what's going on. This is not the best example, but ooh, I added color. I added our logo. Oh, this is mine. You mean I'm going to have this thing? Makes more sense. Never have this problem with Word or Excel or any other tool we're implementing into the organization, right? You're stuck with it. Have it. No, there's this expectation. It's on the web. It should be mine. It should look a little bit different. So this is a simple example of adding that. Again, context. Put the person exactly where you want them to be. And by the way, for training, just the logo. Yes, I know you can't use the Microsoft slides anymore. You have to go do your own. But now with Office 2010 and 2013, you can do the snapshot and screen capture really quick. It's hours of time. Highly recommend it. You'll get, I promise, so much better attention span during that training session. So there's a little tidbit. Okay, so we talked about, where are we in this world? And the keynote stole my thunder, which I guess is a compliment. It's the Facebook age. Even their stock should go up every time that's said there. So this is not drawn to scale, obviously, but we look back and we have the internet, the interweb, connections across the globe in 1971. The developments across that take till 1994 to hit the mass public. It was there, IBM, DoD, major companies were using it all the time. Us little people just didn't really know about that, right? So till 1994, that's a long time. 1994 comes along, we get these really great websites, really ugly websites. Started, I don't know if you guys remember, they're in the accounting department, right? Oh, we need to put up this financial information, just slap it up there. Then comes the blog. The blog is not only a new piece of technology, but is a new way of life, right? People are writing on this thing and putting their whole life out there, and we're starting to go from newspapers, those things that get your hand dirty, to online. And it's available and possible for us. Then the good old MySpace thing came along. Rapidly after that, we have something called Facebook. And then we have Twitter. I realized later that I didn't actually put, where SharePoint is in this, so that was probably a mistake. I'll do that next time, but let's look at it. So SharePoint Team Services 2000, 2001, SharePoint 2000, a great step forward, 2003. At the end of this, we have Moss. Moss was actually finished in 2006, and we could use it. And then we have now a 3-year cycle. Whoa, that's a change, right? This thing didn't exist. And now we're going to a 3-year cycle, or Keynote, a 90-day cycle? We won't talk about that. That's too scary. Okay, another thing that actually was talked about, no, I had this deck prepared before the keynote, I promise, and it was also in another session, was system of record to system of engagement. Now, before any knowledge managers get offended with my next slide, I just want to let you guys know that I am dramatic. I like to be expressive. I like to generalize to try to get you to think about stuff. So, what does this mean? Knowledge management, system of record. there are pieces of knowledge management that are not. But again, just as an example, right? What was the purpose of knowledge management? Anyone? Don't tell me gather knowledge. Connecting people to information and people to people. Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay. Well, storing. So that was a very advanced knowledge management. A lot of knowledge management was like making sure you didn't lose it. Gathering it into one place. System of record. Knowing where everything was kept. Tracking it. Recording it. You can see here, some of the diagrams that were done. Again, people, technology, and process. And everything goes into knowledge management technology. So it's the gatekeeper, per se, of your information. So how did that change? Well, it changed because we went to, system of record / system of engagement. We have SharePoint now. We also had Plumtree, bought out by Oracle, a lot of different portal solutions that were not only a repository for your information, I don't just say documents, not just a repository for your information, but were for active participation in it. So again, as you well know, SharePoint has content types, has ways to find and retain this information for long periods of time. And also it was trying to be that one single place that we love it to be, that you can work on your document, you don't lose it, and what have you. So you've gone from system of record, that one stable place, you might not be working in it, to the place where you're working and happen to store everything. And then, I would argue the description we said before, to now social enterprise. Anybody tired of hearing social yet? Sorry, get used to it. It's here. And really, why are we using the term social? We're using the term social because the technology was introduced and designed outside of the workplace. And the workplace is catching up to that. So in SharePoint 2010, we had My Sites. SharePoint 2007 we did, but we had more usable ones in 2010. We had news feeds. Now in 2013, you get a fuller experience that is like what the generation of people, workers, who are growing up in the Facebook age want. I didn't put my bell curve slide in of adopters and workforce and all that kind of stuff, but new workers want to interact with their information, expect it to be immediately received. Probably heard that kind of stuff too. So we talk about, again, another cultural problem here. We have not only departments that look at things in different ways, we have individual people who look at information in different ways. Also, we have social enterprise. We have Yammer, NewsGator, Tibber, all of the different tools that can integrate in all different systems. I'm not necessarily talking about SharePoint, but obviously SharePoint here. So we've moved. I always used to argue and say that collaboration was a new way of work. How many people really collaborate in your organization? Let's go up to 25%. No. 25% don't collaborate in your organization. No? Yeah, kinda? Wow, okay, wait. 5% collaborate in your organization. 10%? Actually, that was a great point. And 25% we know. Okay, nobody's really collaborating, right? I wanted an email. Why are you taking this from me? I want it where I can control it. We're still in that battle. And sir in the back who's tired of social, I'm sorry. Hopefully, this is what changes that, because they'll be able to have the instantaneous gratification, hopefully, that people are now getting from email. So that's where we are. Any questions about that evolution? Any comments about it? Okay, and we're going to get there. So the question was, the way I was talking about it was putting a tool to an issue, and I'm just trying to, in this part, just trying to say, give context of how we've gotten to this part in technology. So I will take that as a recommendation and clarification for future presentations. We're getting there in a second, so thank you. Any other questions? Comments? That was a great one. So the comment here was that you already have SharePoint and people are using Google Docs, and Google Docs is easier and more familiar. Is that a problem people are having? Yeah, probably, because Google Docs is sometimes easier, and you know, yeah, for permissions and all the different reasons we can talk about that. So yeah, there's another challenge we'll talk about a little bit, is that you have this set of rules. You as IT probably have a set of rules that you want to fit in where your business user, sorry guys, might not want to fit into that. Oh wait, goes into the next phrase. So one of my friends has an analogy that's really kind of great. You sit, all of us at a huge table, and you put one big Rubik's Cube in the center, and you ask everybody at that table to describe what they see. Anybody know what they see? Anyone? They see a Rubik's Cube, yeah? What color Rubik's Cube do they see? It depends how they're looking at it. If one side we'll see, is that orange or red? I'm not sure. One side will see blue. They see a Rubik's Cube, but they see the different color. So they're thinking in their mind, well, of course it's blue. You can't see that it's blue? So the conversation doesn't fit so well. Let's talk about a little bit more. Executives. So there are business decisions in here, makers in here. I'll tread lightly. But in general, again, remember, dramatic. In general, executives are not driven by the same things that people below them are. They need to make decisions. They need the information. They need it now. They need it clean. Now. They're doing projects, and they assign projects on a broad, they're seeing the whole organization, right? So they don't recognize that HR and legal don't necessarily work together. They just say, we're putting in PeopleSoft, HR, legal, work together. And then they also, the way they look at technology, maybe like the gentleman said over there, let's put Band-Aid on here. Technology will solve that. Sometimes true, sometimes not. Obviously not about all executives, but it's also the familiarity with information technology. So let's go down the chain a little bit. There we go. So now we have managers. I know, depending on your organization, large or small, there are many different levels of managers, right? But in general, a manager is providing information to their boss to make those quick and rapid decisions. The manager understands their specific piece of the puzzle. They know what they're working on, and they don't necessarily know what anybody else is working on outside of that. And they're focused really most of the time on themselves because they have to get something done. And who does the work? Well, it's us, right? It's the staff. Staff is focused on getting the work done to provide the information to the managers so the executives can make the decisions on where to move forward. The staff member has a really great specific set of requirements. That set of requirements, again, for a specific case. So let's talk about staff requirements. So who uses an Excel spreadsheet because IT couldn't do a database for them? Oh, wait, we're all IT. Okay, who knows a business user who's using an Excel spreadsheet that you really want to turn into a database? Sorry, I need to twist that around. Yeah, right? They know exactly what they want, exactly how they want it, and you can't give it to them. So they're going to solve that issue. And they have to worry about their team goal, their part of the puzzle. Again, same analogy. And then maybe, oh, okay, I want my team to be successful too. That sort of sound familiar? Are we dealing with those issues? You have to break them out and understand the business user that you're talking to when you're talking to them, because they're going to be driven by different items, and they're going to give you different information. The executive's going to give you broader information and expect you to dissect it. The manager is going to give you smaller tidbit of information, but not understand or not be predisposed to think about all of it that's in the middle, and the worker is just going to tell you, I need that Excel spreadsheet. That's what I need. And he's not going to know what goes up. She's not going to know who uses that information. I need this to put this number out. So I just did that by role. Guess what? Let's talk about ourselves. I should sit down here and it should be a quiet talk and we should really analyze ourselves. What is IT good at? We want to solve a problem, right? Give us something. We'll solve it. Gentlemen, right? So this is what you're talking about. Let's not put a technology to an issue, but let's get that problem out. However, we want that from our technology perspective. And we also want to generalize that so that all groups will benefit. So that's, I think, one of the issues when we have SharePoint is we see SharePoint, especially people in this room, right? Oh my God, it can do everything. It can almost do everything. It kind of, yeah, okay, well, I got to do that, and I got to do that. And, well, but still, it's one tool. So having one tool is a lot of the times driven by IT because the business side, they just want access to their information. They want the solution and what they need. So we have a broad range of structure that's put around us. So we talked about context. We talked about being priceless because of how people viewed items. We talked about how all of us look at different, the Rubik's Cube from a different perspective. We talked about how executives, managers, staff, and of course us folk, the IT people, think a little bit differently. I was seeing, okay, oh, wait, 3 tweets. Thanks for the tweets. They're not questions, so I won't repeat them. Any questions about context? Anyone? Bueller? Okay. Context, really sitting down and understanding who you're talking to, what they're driven by, taking the time that our managers from IT might not let us have. So that's a really, really big piece of it. Oops. See if it works again. Okay. So identify value. Now we're going to get into some nuts and bolts, into some fun little stories here. So what have they done? We have a situation that there's a pilot. We have a situation that it's brand new. We could have a situation where there's a full intranet, and actually, we just talked about it. Less than 10% of your staff is using this thing, is collaborating. Maybe it's there for a static website, and it's doing a great job for that. But that interactive piece of work and management that you want to reduce the file share and you want to get all of the benefits from, not happening. Why? And just like we talked about what you would get out of this session, you get the features, you get a raise. Whatever it might be, we need to know why that's important to them so that we can help prioritize what we're solving. And we're going to do that. But let's go in. What have they done? Unfortunately, this is the most common scenario. They made a mess. Anybody have a mess? I'll do double hands here. So what is a mess? Let's try collaboration. Yes, SharePoint is great because you go click, 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 done. You have sites, you have places, you have people to have sites and places, and you have rampant growth of sites. I love Richard's slide deck. It just blows up with all these different sites, right? Yeah, we have that. British Petroleum had, at one point, 15,000 sites. What do you do with that? I had to go in, basically one by one, and figure out what was being used and what wasn't. And that was actually not their My Sites. That was their collaboration infrastructure. Oops. There's no clear business need in this, right? Let's try collaboration. As we've seen, you guys are a great group. Less than 10% are actually collaborating. Yeah, that happens. We didn't have the stakeholders. And worst of all, we're now in a position where the technology has changed. We see it. We're here at this awesome conference, and our users have had a bad experience. What are the odds that they're going to go back to this thing called SharePoint after seeing this? Anyone? Lots of food. We need more coffee. Not high, right? Well, we actually just said, and I'm using your own response here, we said less than 10% are already collaborating. Then, so they've had a bad experience, or the other 90% have had a bad experience. What are the odds that they're going to come back? Yikes! We really have a problem. Go view Richard's strategy. It'll help you specifically on how to rebuild that. But this happens all the time. So we all raised our hands, feel good that it's not just you. It's one of the benefits and curses of SharePoint, that it's so easy to create, so easy to install, and so hopeful. But again, we talked about moving from a system of record to a system of engagement. And there's a push and pull of that experience because it is a new way to work, because people aren't used to it, because people don't like emailing a link, because that's just odd. I want to see the document. I want to feel it. Send it out to someone. I want to be in control. So this happens a lot. You're not alone. Okay, so here we go into a little bit more detail. And I'll stop for a second and talk. What we're going to do is we're going to use 3 general groups of people, and we're going to describe what they've done, how we got to that, and the business needs. A goal usually is that umbrella, right? I want to, what does this one say? Centralize a proposal process across business development, legal, and financial departments. Great. That's a hope. That's my context, basically. So what's my value? These probably could be even chunked down a little bit more, but it's my business need. This is something that you really need to get down to. That's nice. That's your goal. What's your business need? When you walk away from this, how are you going to be successful? So this should be something that is measurable. And then what we do as IT, and I'll show it to you at the end, is we apply those features to that business need. And that's at the end of this, we're going to do a mapping of those business needs to those features. So business development, okay? This is probably who has a contracts group, who has proposals, same about thing, you toss it around, right? Yeah. Do they send a document to Bob? Bob sends it to Mary, Joe, and Tom, right? They have 3 different versions of it. Then they bring it all the way back up to Bob. They don't know which one's the version. One says $1 million, one says $10 million, which is a typo. One says $100 million, which is hopeful. Which one's accurate? I don't know. Bob picks $100 million, is sued, loses his job. Oh no. Why? Because they have all of this stuff in email. Crazy stuff. So what are the things they want to do? That also took a lot of time. So they want to reduce the time that they have to finish all of this. They want to reduce rework. They want to know what the status is so that Mary doesn't start working on something that Bob's already doing. They also want to be able to go back and see what they've used before. So that's a search functionality. So I'm going to show you a little bit of an example here. And this is a simplified version. I guess it's a little blurrier than I thought. Sorry about that. This is a simplified version of a deployed system, which really had a few parts here. Oh, I think I'll try to lean over here. Does it work? No. Top left, as you're looking at it, my favorite thing in SharePoint, my active proposals. Great. It just shows me what I need to do, what's assigned to me, right? I don't have to go searching for everything. It's right there. Then we also have a task calendar. Really neat. Okay, when is everything due? So you know on one page, they know that this is what's due to me. So we've solved their issue of redoing work. We've reduced the time because it says my work, so they don't have to go searching. They don't have to check their email. And in that, my active proposal, they also have the status. So they can see everything all in one place. Really cool. Also on the top right is how much money is in the pipeline. These contracts people always want to know that, right? And actually, even if they don't want to know that, those executives want to know that. So instead of having to go and, again, email, who did I say? John, Mary, and Tom, and say, what's the contract pipeline like? It's all here, right? Again, we've just solved the business need. You reduce the time. What I love about SharePoint is we did it with one list. This, again, is a simplified version. One list did this all. Okay, one site, sorry, and one list. You guys remember the calendar? That was driven off a date in the list. Well, you guys are familiar with that. That's the wonderful thing of AD. All of the other piece of information, date proposed, date started, the status, of course. Also, we had a workflow here. What I didn't show you is we have people in the contracts or proposal department, business development. We have legal, and then we would have the manager who's associated with this too. And there's a workflow that sends it to everybody. So again, they don't have to go anywhere. All the information is stored. They're collaborating. This is really great. This sound like it would solve issues already? Yeah, you got to know what they wanted in there. So that's pretty cool. So the features, again, we map this to it. We have the document templates. Didn't show you here. We have automatic document tagging, so it comes in, and it's predisposed depending on what folder you put it on. It gets tagged. The workflow I talked about. And then in the full feature, we have SharePoint Designer dashboard that just rolls up everything, makes it pretty, which I didn't do for the sample. Okay, human resources. So what do we have? Human resources wants to make sure that their staff doesn't have to manage all the requests that we ask them, right? Who's asked for that form like 15 times because we don't know which version it is or we can't find it? This is a great group of people to use as a generalized topic because they're always inundated with a lot of information. But they started with the goal, everybody, I really want everybody to be able to benefit, and it's for everybody. No, the truth is, you just don't want your staff. The business need, reduce rework. Also for them was the ability to create easy forms, again, do the status. Very similar needs, right? So let's show that a little bit. This is my favorite form ever. Doesn't exist in real life, but the salary increase request. Fantastic. We usually go through our managers for this, but for this one, we have it in InfoPath. So, again, one of the great things, you can put it in really quickly, right? And we can have those submit your salary request instantaneously. Fantastic. This reduces your time and reduces that HR burden because, again, there's a workflow behind this. Also with human resources is the use of templates. And I didn't risk it with the internet to do a demo, but what this is showing here, you guys have seen content types and drop-downs. But what we did for this organization is we made sure that in each of the departments, they had a document library with these templates. It wasn't important for that company to come in and be able to go to that one site. It was more important that they had the accurate information. So now they go to their own site they're comfortable with, they pull a new document, and they get the leave request or the benefits request. Really cool. Content types are probably used less than collaboration. And they're so powerful. Highly recommend, again, a little tidbit, highly recommend using content types, thinking about how it can move across your organization, document templates, which you probably already created anyway, connecting it to SharePoint and being available all across the organization. So again, something that works for almost everybody. Features, form templates, custom forms, process workflows. Pretty good. All right, my favorite, most common one, the TPS project. Of course, it's to house all the TPS reports, right? Okay, I had a little fun with that. But increased transparency on project. Obviously, if you want to deep dive with project management, go to Ducks. Central communication with the project. What I like about project management is really, again, this task list is so powerful. Even, I'll go out, even more powerful now if you have Exchange 2012 and Office 2013, Office and SharePoint 2013, that you can connect the tasks across and see them in your My Site. But look at what we can do here. We can have Project Management Lite. You can see, I know, no project looks like this, right? A perfect waterfall, and it's beautiful. It was fun just writing it. Then also you can have your work breakdown structure and know different phases and how much you're going to do. Again, a report, right? Instantaneous reporting in your SharePoint. You're giving your workers access to the information, to the information that you need them to see on a daily basis. And you can even build a calendar with that same information. So for here, what I love too, very simple. Task list, alerts. Didn't even need a calendar on that site. So you almost don't even need a site. So that was really great. So improved, we've done that, we've done that obviously internally and across many different organizations. Okay, so this is sort of fun. What can they do, right? I guess I can stop. Any questions about sort of those examples? Goals, business needs, features? No? We doing okay? Food sinking in? Okay, let me know. Shout out, hoot, holler, question. It's all good. Want it to be your session. What can they do? Okay, so who was here for SharePoint 2007? Have you used that before or bought it? 2010 also, right? So we had one wheel. We went to another wheel. Now we're little squares. But I like them. I really like them for communicating to business users. So another takeaway I'd like to give to you is these 5 things that we're about to talk to are Microsoft's marketing. You can tweak them like I have to fit you, but I think it's a really understandable message. So I tried to continue that and use it for my own here. So, sharing. You heard a lot about SkyDrive. What absolutely drives me crazy is we can do this right now. You can do it with 2007. How many people map their SharePoint sites to their network drive? Okay, oh, I love you guys. Still, less than more in the room, right? I know, you usually either have to go to person's desk or you can push it out, and there are obstacles to it, I admit, but we have access to it right now. Those people who say, I will never use SharePoint, I don't want to go to a website, why are you keeping my information there? Here, just open this location through Word. Oh, okay, great, thanks. Yes, I know if you're using Mac, it doesn't work either. Sorry, now it does. Really powerful. Go home, do that right now. If you need to ask me about it, come on up later. Also, what we talked about before with templates, right? So this template, the benefit request form from the example before, tied in. You have document values that fill out your metadata. Really great. Who thinks of this stuff? Microsoft did. They don't advertise it that much. You can get your metadata entered without your users even knowing they're entering it. And you can have the status. And you can have the workflow. And you can move it wherever you need to do. If they build it in their own site, you pick it up and you move it with a workflow, or in 2013, a little bit different. So really, deep integration with Office, right? Sharing. Now, this one is little bit broader. I'm using an example from 2013 here where if you're on the cloud, sorry, I used it, you can directly let people access the information. So that might be the solution to the gentleman over there who had Google Docs. Whoa, if we're on the cloud, we can do that. You actually can do that internally too. You guys probably know about that, and you probably know about all the hurdles you have to do. I worked for a few government agencies. Oh boy, the hurdles you have to jump through to do that, right? It's a lot. But you have the ability, because it's a web application and not just a file share, to collaborate. That's pretty cool. And identify who you can collaborate with. Then, we talked again about the system of record. A lot of people focus on the documents. And sure, SharePoint's really good at doing documents and doing versions and letting you know and organizing your information. So it's available. Now, actually 2010 you can do this too, you're able to follow. You have a news feed. You have ideas and thoughts. Discussion boards existed before. Not that many people used them. Maybe in the community sites we really will. But you can access all these different pieces of information and combine it into one, compared to having it in multiple disparate places. So a lot of things can come out of Share. We could probably talk about this for the whole time, so brief summary. Any questions? Share? Cool? You can actually set required fields in a folder or a document library, and it can automatically populate. We can talk about that. So that's a good cheat. Any other questions now? We'll come back to the Twitter questions in a second. Organize. Let's see what time we're on. Centralized information. So I just mentioned communities, probably slipped. Here's a great community, right? Bring everything together that you want, all in one space. It's not necessarily in one department. It's not necessarily in one team. It's not necessarily the whole organization. Bring it into a community. Have that information. Very similar point here. It's the SkyDrive. Yay! We can bring things up to the cloud and have it available anywhere at any time, syncing. That's really kind of cool. I love that. I have it personally. I cheated. That's actually my personal account, not my pro account, because I had the wrong computer. But you can get everything everywhere. And then site templates. So the point here is when we identify that we've done something right in one of the departments, save as template, move it around, and the other departments can use it. Discover. Oh, now search is so powerful, right? So we can discover people focus, that engagement, system of engagement. Now we also talk about interests and tags and ratings. Again, stuff that was in 2010, but not really used because it was not as easily accessible. So we can do this, and we can do this in a really broad fashion. Discover. Well, if you haven't heard it already, FAST is now included in SharePoint 2013. What does that mean? It means you have a lot more refiners. It means that you have a lot more control. It means as IT, we can provide that value in the search results that people are looking for. Now, they have to tag it, so we have to work with them to get really good results. We have a lot of much more functionality to be able to give them the results they want. I talked about that I'm a non-coder, so I'm going to go over this one really quick. Build. You can customize. You can do whatever you want. On-premise, features, solutions, packages, apps, however you want to do it. Branding. I guess we did talk about workflows, so workflows can fit under this build one, too. I'll just brush over that. And then manage. Manage is pretty cool because the story is now that you have choices, that you have a choice to have SharePoint in many fashions on the cloud, hosted by Microsoft itself, hosted by other reputable people who are here at the conference and you can talk to. But also things that I sort of brought this to was you have your information policies. So we talked about those contracts. Those contracts have to exist for 7 years. We talked about HR documentation. It needs to be moved to a central location. All of that stuff can be done in this big thing called SharePoint. And also we know security. So security in that management piece falls into here. Again, it could be a whole session in and of itself. So I'm going to walk back here, see if there are any other tweets. We've talked about what they've done, what they can do, and, is that important to them? Oops, sorry. Any questions while I try to look at these? I do not have a kickboxing career, someone asked. That's a little dangerous. All right, I don't see any questions. Any questions? We're getting to the really good stuff here. Right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we didn't talk too much about culture, so the question is, how do you go against the people, the large naysayers, the population, I won't even be ageist, but the population that says this is crap? Oops, I said it. Right, I hate it. Why are we going to do this? Number one way, put it on their network drive. They never know. Here, it's just this funky looking thing, but it's a folder. Plop it there. If you have to sit there and do all their folders, move everything. Put it right there. They never know. Sorry. This is what we were told. Do it. Tell them later. You know what? You've actually been on this site. Documents. Right. Okay, paper is my enemy. So if you didn't hear him, great example, issue tracking. Unbelievable. The TPS project could have issue tracking in SharePoint. People use issue tracking in SharePoint? Yep. Not just for the SharePoint team, other teams too. I got in trouble. They said, why is that not in Remedy? Oh, well, because it was easier to do in SharePoint. So the question is, they printed the example was they took this and they printed it out, right? How do you avoid that? Well, printing it out is pretty extreme, but I think the thing you need to go back to is their divergent goals, right? For an IT team with an issue tracking list, our goal is to get everything centralized and make everything as easy as possible for us. Remember, this is the IT perspective. It's easier for us. That person who wants to write it, it's not easier for them. So somehow, you need to take that time and understand their context. Maybe it's they can't see the screen well. Maybe they need a bigger screen. I had to convince my father to get a bigger screen. He's this muckety-muck at a law firm. Dad, you can ask for a 27-inch screen. Really? Really, you can. Oh, that's a good idea. He didn't want to admit he couldn't see the small one anymore. So that's why I use that example. But the context, it might be something you're not thinking about. What's the real issue here? Also tell him the value. I understand this is an extra step for you. This is the chain. Explain, what's coming out there. So it goes back to understand the context, understand their value or lack of value, and put it. And again, the more people you get, you have to generalize and you have to slice off the ends to be able to make the description fit. But, get those people in a room. Might be ugly. Sound pretty good? We can talk more about it. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go.
I was just going to give you one idea. You could do what my company did, which is hire one of them so that they could relate.
So we have a naysayer in the house who's, are you being swayed? Their age. A peer. Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Okay, so So let's generalize so we don't get into any trouble here. If you have a group of people, and actually you can even say it, so I worked in a health organization. I come as an IT person and talk to someone who's a researcher in health. No idea what they're talking about. No idea how they're talking. Have someone the same. So if you can't hire someone, find someone who is using it and have that peer conversation. Ooh, that's really great. Okay, let's get to the last fun part of this, and then we'll ask have time for a few more questions. So, creating buy-in. How do we do this? Well, I guess we just said this by answering the question. We align the value, and we're going to do a little exercise here. We prioritize the features, and something that I'm saying that's a little different is publicize the roadmap. We actually talked about it a little bit here. It makes sense to you. You have it on your yearly, responsibilities. No one else knows what's going on. Even if you don't think they're listening, yes, it takes you a little extra time. Publicize it. Tell people that it's coming. Warn them. Get the value. One thing that you don't think works might strike a chord. I was showing a demo once, and I had the items grouped Outlook style, and the woman fell out of her chair. She said, "Oh my God, if I could look at my information like that." I had her send the spreadsheet to me, did the upload in Excel, did a view. Made her day. To me or you as an IT person, as a SharePoint user, we see it every day, right? So the more you can talk, the more you can communicate, really will benefit. And that's in general. So, do people really have different needs? This should be a drum roll, please. Reduce time to rework for creating proposals. Remember, that was a specific business need. That's not a specific business need. Who doesn't need to reduce time and rework, right? Again, these are probably a little general, but trying to get it within an hour. Oh, okay. Ooh. That's a good question. Let's try to save that to the end. The question was, sometimes the requirements are gathered before IT gets in and we're just handed this. Let me hold off onto that. And if I forget, remind me. So let's just talk about different needs. So one of the things that I'm advocating is that whatever you do get handed, and again, that's just like executives hand stuff to managers, hand stuff to staff, and then IT gets it, right? Or managers are talking to us, and managers are talking to us without their staff. That might be one of your answers. Never have a conversation only with the managers who don't do the work every day. Oops, I said that out loud too. I don't know how many times I've had to advocate, who pushes the buttons? It'd be really great if we could just talk to them. Oh, no, I know the whole process, right? The whole thing, it's in my head, it works perfectly. Okay. Maybe that's a little bit of... Well, and that happens too, right? So he was saying that the people who push the buttons, the staff, again, have those specific requirements. So then you have to take those requirements and understand the manager's value and help them bring that back up. Ooh, maybe we answered it. So again, let's generalize these. We have the HR form, approval status and tracking. Well, really, approval status and tracking, right? It's across. Communicate it. Build a language that anyone can understand. Central repository for TPS reports, which maybe most people, if they're in IT, will recognize. It's a central repository for what you need. It's with the cover sheet, but the cover sheet is now actually an InfoPath form, so it's okay. Thank you. So, what do we do here? We map the needs to the organizations. So now, we've interviewed, and the woman left. Oh well. You have all these different organizations that are using SharePoint or that you want to use SharePoint. You go and you could be handed the information, or you were able to go and solicit it. And you take those generalized needs Again, probably more detailed than this, but still generalized. How could this be for all the different organizations? And you map them to the different departments. Oh, look at that. Everybody wants reduced time and rework. Not everybody cares about the central repository. Okay, so what does that mean to us, right? We take those features, I think I said this the wrong way on the slide. We take those features now that we have, or we take those needs that we have, and we map them to features. So now, we build what are the most common items here. So reduced time rework, we have automated tagging that we talked about before, we have forms and templates and workflow, and enterprise search just goes across. You need it. We need to find it. This document doesn't exist if we can't find it. So you do a two-step. Most of the time what I've seen is a one-step, right? This organization needs this. Now, you still might have to prioritize about that, but if you want overall buy-in, you need to be able to communicate the business needs of one organization in a language that all organizations will be able to understand. Then you need to go through the process of taking those needs, which we've mapped features to already, and saying which ones are the priorities. So now we have a roadmap. Oh, roadmap comes next. How does that sound? Is that going to help? Where's that other gentleman? It's a little bit different. I've done it several times, and it really helps. But the key here is to let everyone know about it. So again, it doesn't work if you're going to say, I'm going to solve this need and I'm going to let go. You need to have the long view, understand the spectrum. We identified several different features. How are we going to deploy these features? The biggest one I'm going to say here, because we really have an IT audience, I've been that person several times, either in-house or as a consultant. You need someone on the IT team who is business-focused to advocate, sell, market, push, nag, beg, borrow. You get the point. Those ladies and gentlemen that don't want to use it, so the lady behind who was hired for that is probably that resource, is the person who can communicate. Wow, what a great audience this was. That's what works. That's what gets you up to 60, 70% participation. You going to have 100? Probably not. However, social might push you over that edge because people are interested in communicating with people. And if you move to that social engagement model, you might start to get that connection instead of with a system, with a group of people. Now, I have also my ideal roadmap. And let me go behind here just to make sure I have all these things right. So, my ideal roadmap. If you see in red here, launch. I learned from someone very wise, don't focus on the launch. It's really nice, it's really great. Actually, I had a social enterprise internet that we sent out, or we built and we deployed, and it used social features. And we were sitting there really excited and felt really great. And a few hundred posts came in on the news feed and said, oh, I'm having an issue with this, I'm having an issue with that. It was working, and we didn't plan for it. So we had to do all hands and figure out how to respond to these appropriately. It's a great experience, but we didn't plan how we were going to support that news feed immediately at launch because we didn't fathom that it would be so popular. What are the things that you need to do beforehand? So beforehand, we talked about the business requirements. So this, for the gentleman who asked the question, you insert yourself. You, you make sure that your bosses know that you need to gather those requirements. It is our responsibility as IT to start these things. Yes, we need stakeholders. I haven't even talked about them today, right? Yes, we need stakeholders. Yes, we need business users. But we need to form that organization and grow it. We want to release a training testing infrastructure. Hopefully, it'll look a little cool so that people can play with it. And then we can refer back to it and we can test out new features. We want to convene the technical and strategy teams. You've seen this in every single governance document that there ever possibly is, right? What do these things mean? They're the people who are going to advocate for it. These are your early adopters, people who are really excited. People love to share, like the group of people we have right here. I would say start educating about the social features. So for this gentleman who's just starting out, start educating about the social features. You have lunch and learns. Say, here are things that are coming. Ask what value that would be. Unfortunately, in most cases, we have SharePoint and we're optimizing using it. So we don't have the choice to pick different technologies. We have third-party vendors that can optimize what SharePoint does, but we have SharePoint, so we need to deploy it. Then we've done all of this background. We've gotten interesting ideas. We've gotten feedback. We might not be able to implement it right away, but people have been participating. It makes it easy for us to what? To communicate with everyone. And so then, what I've seen really successful, really specific nugget here, is have a user profile fill-out contest. This is really fun. People love it. You're already connected. You can connect to Active Directory, so you have the basic information. But all the information that you want to add, so if you're a car dealer, or you sell cars, you put what kind of cars you sell. You put what interests you have. You put the values that are important to the organization, and maybe you decided you needed some. This affects people search. This affects the way people work together. I heard in a session before, Microsoft was talking about how they use this all the time because they're talking to people who are in Tokyo, they're in Seattle, other people in Washington, D.C. They're working on the same exact project. They never actually communicate. They can go to the person's My Site and find people. Or they can find out who's not on the team anymore, which I think was really cool, and ask them a question because they move around. So they can ask former people on the product teams because they have that information in their user profile. I really recommend that. Then, so this was a real use case. What we did was we had the user profiles on an individual basis. Then we grouped them, and we said, department heads. Now we're going head-to-head via department. We've got 50% user profile. Now it's your turn to compete against each other. Bob, you're in charge of HR. If you don't have more than 50, well, legal's going to win. Silly, right? Why should they care about this? Well, someone somewhere said that this is important. And it's always good to have a little, competition. So this huge growth, way above any metric we thought. 75% of all user profiles in a 5,000-person organization are filled out. Many more than 10% people are now collaborating in that system. Guess what? They had team sites for 2.5 years prior that were barely used. Now, you introduce this social, you have this social timeline, and you get unbelievable return. Really interesting, too. Anybody remember seeing the Spot character that was in like a costume in the keynote? Yeah, they had someone called Captain Connect who went around the offices, who had videos. Cheesy, but really worked well. And then we keep on going. So we've had all of the contests. We review the metrics. And we see what has been being used, and we make a decision on moving forward. We've gathered all the feedback, and we make changes to the system. We adapt. And again, what I didn't put in here is we're having user meetings, we're having tactical meetings, we're having brown bags. This is why you need that person who it's their full-time job to do, right? Or a team that swaps everything. Repetition over and over and over and over again. Feedback. You have another launch. Listen, here were your business needs, your new business needs, across multiple departments. We made a change to the system for you. This is great. This is where SharePoint excels, right? We can do that. We can do that for everybody. Maybe it's those site templates. Maybe it's a custom content type. Maybe it's one of those forms. We can make those changes. That's my ideal roadmap. Of course, as a consultant, it goes on forever. But I really think because of the capabilities of SharePoint, you have to think a year is infinitesimal. Really hard in the government to plan for longer than a year, and most companies too, but at least a year, especially when you're starting out. And you have to be realistic. You now can go back and say, hey, I was in a room of 200 maybe people who said that only 10% of the people are using this because of various reasons. We need to do better, and we need to plan for the long haul to do that. And I think that's a real true experience. My first experience was we went up to about 25%. The second year, we went up to like 28%. Then we had to change things around, and we went up to about 60% collaboration. And it was actual use, not just throwing documents up and slapping them there. So, the ideal roadmap lasts a long time, is continuous, is involved with the business side of the house, so that, again, you can do that context, you can do that value. We only have 2 more minutes, so that was a summary. So we understand the context, we identify the value, we created the buy-in. Did you get the value out of this you wanted? Yes, I see some nods. I would have loved, jumping up and cheering and all that kind of stuff, but okay, I'll take that. It was after lunch. 2 more minutes. What else? Is there anything else we can add here? Right. Right, great. Okay, so I'll answer your question in a second. Thank you. Remember to fill out the form. Thank you. The question, thanks everybody. The question was a lot of different people, they have their, yeah. Also, if you want to win a Surface, well, if you like some information, actually, some of these links are Richard's, who's sitting right here. Also, if you want to win a Surface, if you want to follow me on Twitter, they're all your wonderful things, and fill out the forms. Okay, sorry. So we already have an existing site. Now everybody's getting possessive. So one way to do that, it's hard to retract, but a best practice, if you know you're building a solution that's going to affect a lot of organizations, would be to put it in its own site collection by itself, and then you never have to change anything. That's very specific, but it might be that you do have to pull things out or create its own infrastructure. I've done a forms site collection, a little misleading, but basically all of those corporate-wide, because the permission structure would go in there. You put it all in there. You can make an excuse that your IT boss told you to do that, or there's some technical thing, which there is, and then you'll be able to maintain it, and everybody will win in the end. Really quick answer. We can talk about it more. Thank you, everybody.